This really is just like angst of the highest variety. Oh, it's like if you took a simple plan song and stretched it across 136 pages and made people pay for it.
It's just good business.
Hello friends and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest daily cringe content anywhere on the internet. Promise swearsies. It's just a fact, it's totally science. Go ahead, look it up. Thanks so much. And yes, welcome back to the Onision book club. That's what we're calling it. He can't sue me if I call it that, so that's what we're calling it. This is Why I Hate You. I think it's his first book. We're on chapter 7. Previous links in the description. Let's let it rip. Chapter 7. Oh yeah, I do this voice the whole time. Blood means nothing. I don't need blood. I got family.
Family.
Something pretty awful happened. For as long as I can remember, there's been a significant amount of stress and hostility between my father and I. Something had to break eventually, right? Yeah, he's counting on in another year you go away. I think it's unfortunate that little Gregory didn't have these foundations laid under him, so he sort of spun out of control. A lot of the things that form us as a person during childhood are things that we don't even remember, so he wouldn't think to write them down. You just blame it on the currently most convenient thing in the present, which is, of course, my dad. He's not letting me live the way I want. It's like, well, maybe he knows some things that you don't. Maybe consider that. All of this, Gregory, author, fatherless behavior, all right? I'll try to use as much detail as I can, because I wasn't able to before, and it should all be written down. Oh, it all should be written down. Your syntax is horrible. Last Friday, I was on my way back to my redneck aunt's house. I was in the backseat of my dad's car with the oversized sack of potatoes he calls a girlfriend in the passenger seat. Yeah, I'm sorry she doesn't run around the entire house and flap her hands before they bang. I saw a comment that theorized author's girlfriend Ashley was actually a dog, and I'm like, dude, it makes perfect sense. I'm on board with this theory. I wanted to spend the weekend with Ashley, but my dad's stupid job of her girlfriend wanted to go spend the weekend at my aunt's house. Yeah, stupid parents, always trying to take care of me and look out for my well-being. I know you don't really care, Dad, about protecting your progeny. Stop pretending. After all the things he said about how he would be proud of his progeny, etc., he totally wouldn't drop him out of two-story windows. Yeah. It's fascinating to me that he can't make the connection between like that and his father trying to protect him. Whatever, who cares? Maybe I'm going too deep with this, okay? My dad, being the horrible father he is, prioritized the wishes of his girlfriend over me. Oh, so Arthur's dad is like Elliot Rodgers' mom. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Hey, go watch the manifesto if you haven't yet. Whole thing's on the channel. It's waiting for you. His decision screwed over Ashley, too. The person I care about 100 times, more than both my dad and his genital puppet combined. Obviously, I was pretty upset. Genital puppet is pretty funny, though.
It looks like an unmanned fire hose.
Everything else you said is really stupid and horrible, but I get the sort of teenage angst that would make a teenager write this. Not somebody in their 30s, but a teenager. So I'm stuck in this car, driving far from my amazing girlfriend, while the double-chinned idiot in the passenger seat wears a smug grin painted across her face. She's so proud of feeling more important than a man's own offspring. So he does make the connection, but only in a way to make him seem more important than he actually is. It's fascinating. Only a fat, self-absorbed, stuck-up princess wannabe troglodyte would take satisfaction in a man betraying his own children for a 1 out of 10 paper bag girlfriend like her. I mean, she probably throws it back or cooks real good or something like that. There's got to be an upside. Gregory's just not seeing it because it doesn't benefit him. And even though he's only really supposed to be there for another year or so, he just wants it to be his way, 100%. I know it's crazy that you can build relationships with someone not based on their looks. To Group A, looks are very important. To Group B, looks are not that important. There's someone for everybody out there. Group B is women.
Women.
Why did I even have to go? Why was my father such a whipped idiot?
Idiot.
Isn't this the pot calling the kettle black? Like, you want to go and bang your girlfriend and he wants to take her somewhere so he could bang his girlfriend. Unfortunately, he's older and owns everything, so yeah, you're going with him. Like, it is what it is. Try to enjoy it. So, I'm blasting my music on my headphones, and my father's smiling like a fool. He was no doubt off in some bizarre world, surrounded by thoughts about how much better than everyone he is for having his religion. His don't eat the chicken but eat the chicken menstruation diet, and his ugly frog-like girlfriend. Gosh, it sure is easy to look down our nose at other people, but like, as long as he's satisfied with his life, I think that's the coolest thing ever. But everything he does have to be a problem, because of course, inevitably, it's a problem. The only person that's right in this universe is Arthur. Don't you see? Sitting in the back seat thinking about them, it was burning me up inside. I had to do something to drown the thought of them out. And yes, to annoy them. I turned my music up to the maximum level. Yeah, Spinal Tap, bro. Turn it up to 11.
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly.
This very same music basically consisted of screaming about how my dad's God didn't exist and how stupid everyone who followed that God was. It really does terrify you. That's what all this is about. It terrifies you that something that you can't see or perceive has given somebody like some modicum of inner peace, whereas you yourself are just in turmoil all the time forever because of the one thing that you're so scared to turn to. Me personally, do I know one way or the other? No, absolutely not. But I feel changes. I feel a net positive with a church-going family. I don't know, just real experiences here, something to consider. At some point, my dad asked me to turn down my music, but I ignored him. He asked again, and I ignored him. He clearly didn't know what to do. He kept looking at his walking pile of fat, crotch puppet vagina with legs. Oh, there's supposed to be commas in there, but it's so much funnier without them. As if he was words, you would judge him for whatever he did or didn't do in regards to my blasting music. I kind of want to say that's bullshit, but I also feel like women, yeah, they are constantly sizing you up. Grab the Walkman CD player, possibly not iPod, chuck it out the window. That's the alpha play here. I could see his girlfriend giving him, my father, concerned looks in response to my blaring music. Him, my father. It's like a perspective change in the middle of the sentence. He had to do something to establish that he was still the alpha male in the car. And God forbid he rise above. See, that's what this kid understands. Alpha energy, okay. Do you, a teenage boy, want to fight a man in his mid-30s? It's probably not a great idea. As a desperate last resort, my father pulled off to the side of the road, in front of a gas station, and asked loudly and clearly, "What is your problem?" I had no filter or any concern for anyone's feelings in that car. I replied, "It's your fat, ugly snob girlfriend that always gets her way that's my problem." Damn, dude, you're about to learn that words sometimes have consequences.
I'm about to whip somebody's ass.
I've never seen my father get so violent. As his face turned red with rage, my father lunged at me, choking me. I said aloud in a distorted voice, "I can't breathe." He ignored me. I said again in an even more unstable and desperate voice, "I can't breathe." He again ignored me.
Oh, come on, I thought you were this tough jujitsu. Just break his arm or something.
I had little choice. My father was gonna try and choke me until I passed out or died, because apparently he couldn't handle his abomination for a girlfriend being criticized without turning into an insane ape.
You do realize civility is the only thing that separates us from the ape, and you kind of crossed the barrier of civility. So yeah, now we're just in full ape territory. Gorillas in the mist, motherfucker.
I had to make a decision in that moment. It wasn't a hard one, as the path I took involved me being able to continue breathing. Fortunately, on that day, I was wearing my combat boots.
Oh yeah. Do you wear a bunch of black leather with pink lace on it? Tell me more about your outfit.
So despite being pinned to the back seat with both his hands wrapped around my neck, I proceeded to push him off of me with my foot. For good measure, I followed that with anywhere from 9 to 17 kicks to his chest, neck, and head.
Dude, you did that like Liu Kang shit? Wah, 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 wah. Bicycle kick.
It was amazing how hard the back of his body hit the dashboard.
I don't know if there's really even room for you to fall backwards in a car.
The whole car shook as my leg launched from the back seat toward the dash, repeatedly connecting with his helpless, oversized body. I could have kept kicking him, but my goal wasn't to break anything, just to get him away from me and ensure that he stayed there.
Yeah, see, but I could have broken something if I really wanted to. Little did we all know that he was in control of this situation the whole time.
Quickly after he was half knocked out on the dashboard, his girlfriend jumped out of the car, not knowing what to do. My father recovered as fast as he could and went to choke me yet again, only this time from the outside of the car, where he had no dashboard to collide against if I decided to fight back once more.
I mean, choking is sort of a grapple thing. I would think that less space would be better, but what do I know, I guess.
His bloated, freak girlfriend felt more comfortable approaching the backseat passenger door opposite my father, now that I was again being choked.
Why didn't you do the bicycle kick thing again? Come on! Seems like you're not even trying here. Oh, I forgot that he's got that protagonist syndrome that's like, oh, I have to let myself get beat up a little bit before I clock it into maximum overdrive.
Once she grabbed my ankles and proceeded to try taking off my boots, I wiggled my feet around to prevent her from making contact while saying, "You know, Dad, I would say I love Satan, but I don't believe in him."
Oh, yes. Why would you follow him when you can literally be him, I guess?
I felt ridiculous for saying that, but I knew he was obsessed with his God and wanted to demonstrate that if I was dumb enough to believe in a magical, invisible being, it would be the one that he feared most. His girlfriend continued to struggle with my wiggling feet as my dad responded, "Well, good."
It's interesting how the dad's still choking him and he's talking, like just having an argument with him.
Really, Father? Your son being willing to say I love Satan if he actually believed in your religion was legitimate, well, good situation?
Was legitimate is a well, good situation. What the hell?
Really?
Yeah, really. Like, how did spell check not catch some of these things?
Okay. I didn't realize it at the time, but blood was pouring from my dad's face for being kicked so many times. I only understood it later, because I remember he had to stop choking me at one point from the side of the car so he could go to the front and wipe his face on some napkins that were in the glove box.
Yeah, that good old stack of McDonald's napkins that nobody ever gonna use. Who's really gonna stop in the middle of a fight and be like, wait, I need to wipe my face? Like, my goal is to choke you out and bleed into your mouth and give you hepatitis. That's that's a horrible thing to say. Why would I say that? I guess because funny. That's why I say most terrible things. Anyway,
his girlfriend now had half of one of my boots untied, but because my dad was wiping his face in place of continuing to choke me, I took the opportunity to make a run for it.
Wait, stop, come back.
I sprinted to the other side of the gas station so they couldn't see me, but quickly stopped running once a key question surged to the forefront of my fragile little mind. Where am I going to go?
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
I'm surprised you hadn't considered any of these things in advance. I'm dying.
We'd already driven so far away from anyone I knew. I had no money on me. Because of that, I felt I had no hope.
I mean, you had no hope long before this, but for different reasons.
It was this sudden realization that brought me to tears. I gave up. I sat on the closest curb and cried. After only a couple of minutes, a patrol car approached me, and 2 police officers got out.
Oh, good. The police. They'll fix everything.
I was so overwhelmed with adrenaline and emotion that I couldn't think clearly.
Yes, crying and emotional like a true alpha male. Sitting on the curb crying because I realized I have nothing in this world. You've only consumed, you've contributed nothing, and yet you feel entitled to everything. I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. But I digress.
All I could tell the cops was I thought he hit me. I didn't know at the time that my shirt was soaked in my father's blood. I didn't even fully know what had just happened. I was just an angry kid whose father never really wanted him to be himself.
This really is just like angst of the highest variety. Oh, it's like if you took a Simple Plan song and stretched it across 136 pages and made people pay for it.
It's just good business.
I had a father that raised his kid to fail. He never told me to be what I wanted.
Oh, that would have fixed you, huh?
My father never told me to be true to myself. He only told me to be like him. And when I wasn't, in so many ways, he left me for dead.
If that's the biggest failure that he's had as a father, then you're doing pretty all right.
One of the police officers told me to stand up and turn around. He slipped the cuffs on me. As the cuffs were locked around my wrists, I cried. Why are you arresting me? He hit me. As I still wasn't even clear-minded enough to articulate the difference between hit and choke.
Yeah, that does happen. You tend to forget a lot of words while you're in the middle of a fight or in the middle of writing a book. In the middle of a YouTube video. It makes me feel really, what's the word? Anyway.
The officers just ignored me. How could they pay attention to anything I had to say? Choke marks don't show up as easily as someone's boot in your face. He was a broken and bleeding man. I was just a kid with blood on his boots and a blood-drenched shirt.
Dude, I remember trying to fight my stepdad when I was like 16, 17. I got my shit handed to me. You think you're prepared to fight your dad? You're not prepared, okay?
I was taken to juvenile hall. I spent the entire weekend there, as the judge only worked on weekdays.
Well, maybe that'll settle you down some.
I sat in the cell, playing the event over and over again. Every other thing I said after the incident was a mistake. If only I could have clearly explained myself to the police officers, but my chemically distorted brain scrambled my thoughts and made me senseless.
That's right, nothing's my fault. Why can't I remember the words? All chemicals in my brain. Cool. You mean we don't have to be accountable for anything anymore?
This may surprise most, but in that cell, I felt safe. I felt happier than I had in my own home. A prison cell felt more welcoming than living 2 doors away from my father. I knew in that cell I didn't have to look at his obnoxious girlfriend or see his disappointed face.
Okay, good. Stay there. That seems like a win-win. I mean, it's sad we couldn't work it out, but clearly we can't work it out. So, happy trails.
All I really did through my time in juvenile hall was push-ups and play cards with the other inmates and smile.
You in there smiling at the other inmates? I'm gonna tell you right now, it's probably not a good idea.
My father was there to get me out the Monday that followed. He had a black eye, and his entire eyeball itself was red. I must have busted the eyeball itself. Good.
Yeah, fractured his occipital lobe, but really it was just all in self-defense. How could he show up to get his child out that Monday? The love of a parent. It's crazy. And the author just refuses to see it. Now, I'm not saying that we should allow late-term abortions up to 238 weeks. That would be ridiculous and inhumane. Instead, I'm saying that we should allow them up to 442 weeks because... Alicia's mom, you have a chance to end all of this. She won't, because that thing that we was talking about, see? It all loops back around.
The judge let me walk because I guess my father didn't press charges.
That is ludicrous to me.
I mentioned my father attacked me first to multiple people, but no one really cared. They only cared what he had to say. I was just the property of my father to them. Legal slaves. That's how the government treats kids like. And you wonder why I hate you people.
Yes, let's remove all legal protection. Let the children smelt steel. They yearn for the mines, don't you know?
When I got home, I quickly realized that my father had accessed my computer while I was locked up. The last date open data on my journal files showed that he had in fact looked at everything I said up to this point. He knew everything I wrote. Well, who cares, right? It's like I said, I'm a legal slave to him, just like every other kid is to their parents. We don't have rights, we're just property.
You know, I'm starting to suspect that Onision wants the government to remove protections for reasons other than a kid standing by a sewing machine all day to make a few bucks. Really skirting those age of consent laws. It's been documented.
I even confronted my father about it. Dad, can you come in here? I yelled down the hall. He came to the room and said in his normal Ned Flanders-like tone, "What's up, Arthur?"
Stupid sexy Flanders!
I looked at him with a blank face and asked, "Did you access my computer?" It didn't take more than a second for my father to decide to blatantly lie to me. He said, "No, I didn't." I had no patience. I screamed at him. "I know you looked at my files."
My precious files.
I looked him right in the eyes and watched him continue to lie to me. It took me showing him the dates he accessed my computer on the screen itself for him to admit that he had accessed it.
Yeah, computers can't create. You can't really hide shit anymore. You might as well just live an honest life, you know?
I'd never felt less respect for him than in that moment. Him reading my journal meant that he knew more than he ever deserved. And you know what he did with that info? Nothing! He didn't change. He didn't try to be there for me or turn me around.
Yeah, it's all up to him to turn you around at age 17. Shouldn't you be, like, starting to get it figured out? At least a little bit. Like, okay, he didn't lay the groundwork. You got to do that part yourself. But isn't it worth doing?
All my my father did was leave me alone in my room after I proved him a liar. We haven't spoken about anything meaningful since.
I mean, at the rate this book is going, I'd believe that you haven't said anything meaningful ever. If your dad did say something meaningful, surely it went in one ear and out the other.
Where's your self-righteousness now, Dad? Where's your invisible friend to save the day? Your family's falling apart. Your girlfriend remains a freakish bullfrog creature. And you're still just another carbon copy simpleton, occupying yet another carbon copy home, on a carbon copy street, in a carbon copy town.
Sort of just the state of the world these days, son, but if this means winning, then hell yeah, I want to start winning.
Are you still praying for me, Father? Because things keep getting worse. Maybe you aren't praying hard enough.
Maybe your child just has a self-destructive streak that you can't seem to stop. And I guess I could say the same about myself because we're going to continue on into chapter 8 today.
I have no future here. My life is more often than not a series of tragic events, isn't it?
Name one, please. A jock touched your girlfriend one time? Oh my God.
Me, being like so many other people, I speak up the most when something goes wrong. And today's no different. My little fragile life.
He actually said it.
My little fragile life feels like it's falling apart more than ever before.
Yeah, make sure to blame everybody else for how it's going, okay?
Principal Lehman found out that I was sent to juvenile hall and used that as an excuse to expel me. On my dad's voicemail, he said,
Mr. Linfeld, your son was already on probation at school. His recent arrest has prompted me to expel him. I warned your son would happen if he got into any further trouble. Warned your son would happen. That's the only reason that Onision was able to give birth to himself is because he caused trouble. He needs to cause further trouble because that's what helps him exist. Now that he's starting to fade from the public eye, maybe things will get really interesting. But I don't know, I don't care enough to dig too deep. The items in his locker will be mailed to the address listed in his file.
Now my dad refuses to acknowledge me beyond moments where verbal communication is an absolute necessity. It's really not that much of a loss, considering he barely cared in the first place.
Trust me, he's made a lot of sacrifices to get you this far. I'm sorry you don't recognize that yet.
My girlfriend Ashley is still supportive as always. She's basically the only person in my life who's even remotely kind to me these days.
Yeah, she's also a golden retriever.
It's been more difficult to find an opportunity to see her now that my father's worried I'm gonna get her Gregornant.
Yeah, we don't gotta shoot our foul soup into the mattress anymore. We bought a golden retriever. Oh, God.
He was extremely lenient before because he had no idea we were intimate. Him reading my journal changed the entire vibe in the house.
Oh no, the vibe has been altered. Can we possibly go back? Nah, we can't.
All the murderous thoughts I expressed having earlier, I'm sure didn't help. But you know what? I don't care. This is who I am. I'm not gonna pretend and live a lie like my father does. There's plenty of ugliness in me. I could deny it and act like it'll all be forgiven by some magical being, or I could just own it. The second option is undeniably more honest.
Except that it's not more honest, though, because you're lying to yourself. The truth is there's beauty and ugliness in this world, and whichever one you focus on will be amplified. You can't control things outside yourself, but you can control your emotions, so just choose happiness, no matter what happens. It takes some practice, but it really is that easy. Although, some days easier than others.
Whenever I'm around my dad, it always feels like an ongoing, passive-aggressive battle.
Yeah, for alphahood.
My father, being as religious as he is, refuses to directly admit I've slept with someone out of wedlock. His magical book strictly forbids that, after all. Last thing is, I've slept with my girlfriends more time in the past month than he has with his girlfriend ever. And I'm pretty sure my coon brings me more joy than his religion ever brought him as well.
Yes, just boil it down to its basest animal instinct. I think the only thing that he's going to understand is if you hit him in the face with a rock. Multiple times, until he stops moving. I think witnessing that would fill me with more joy than like a really good backblaster, you know?
It must be awful, laying next to that useless sack of lard, not having the courage to break up with her. Oh, well, not getting any action either. What a joke.
Why does it matter at all? Why are you paying attention, you weirdo? Please stop. You could live a fulfilled life without playing with your weeder all the time, you know? Although it could be a lot of fun. But yeah, wait for the moment that you feel comfortable with.
My father will say things like, maybe you shouldn't spend so much time with Ashley. I'm always like, why not, father? You know, in exactly the condescending, why not, father, tone that anyone who thinks their dad is a total idiot would use.
Yes, I believe the tone is called sarcastic teenager number 4.
My father will then say something like, because you need to focus on your future. What it really means coming from him is, I read your journal where you said you don't use condoms with your girlfriend, but I'm gonna still pretend like I didn't read it despite me already admitting I did when you caught me red-handed. So if you could just not be around Ashley for a reason I'm willing to say out loud and maybe wake up one day loving the same God as I do, that would be great. Idiot.
He's making some good points, honestly, but yeah, I understand. You got to do edgy teenager things. At least while you're an edgy teenager. If you're 30-something, author, stop. Just stop.
Despite everything,
comma,
Ashley and I are intimate literally every chance we can get. Whenever and wherever we can tear each other apart, we take it.
Yeah, this is how people turn into exhibitionists, isn't it?
I'm not even kidding. My life is falling apart, and I can barely care so long as my body's crashing against hers.
Yeah, I bet you hold on to her soft blonde hair. Definitely hair, not fur.
Considering I'm expelled, there's a small part of me that still lives in reality and is concerned about my academic future. This little voice suggests that I get a GED. I think my first goal is the good enough degree, and after that, the military.
Yep, perfect place for kids with no direction. I tried it out. Gives you 4 years to figure some stuff out. Although the military now is not necessarily the military that I joined. They were making changes. I wanted to join the rum-swilling fight-a-person Navy, and they're like, no, this is a more sensitive man's Navy. And I'm like, well, I guess I really don't belong. OP says,
I don't necessarily love the idea of dying for my country, but it's a great alternative to being stuck with my father and his rotten, hairless albino moose of a girlfriend.
Hairless albino moose. It was pretty funny. And you can tell that's the author leaking into the character because he joined the chair force. I bet this character is also going to join the chair force.
I hadn't spoken to Ashley in depth about my plans to join the military. She doesn't seem like the kind of person to just let me go. If I do successfully make it into the armed forces, I think I'd want her to go with me. But I have no idea how that would even work.
Yeah, you'd have to get married, and that would fall right into your father's trap. You'd be like, okay, well, I guess you guys can bang now. And he's like,
but that isn't fun anymore.
You need a little risk, little adventure? Go do it in the car. See how that works out. And again, that's a bit of myself leaking through the character. Anyways, continuing on.
Someone who kinda got me into the military idea is Ashley's younger brother, Thomas. He's younger than her, but had plans of joining himself.
Cool, awesome. Let's all have no idea what to do.
Thomas told me so long as I get a GED, I could actually get a decent job in the Air Force.
Of course. Didn't consider anything else. The Air Force is the highest of class. Let me tell you something. In A school, to learn to be a logistics specialist, the Army, the Marines, and the Navy, we all stayed in Army barracks. Where were the Air Force guys? In a hotel. No, I'm not salty about it. If I had to repick a branch, though.
I could get in as long as my ASVAB test scores are sufficient. It's a bonus that I would possibly get to go to college for free under the GI Bill once I got out.
That's true. That's why you do your 4 years in bail.
This all sounds pretty fantastic, considering it all points to me never having to see my father or his girlfriend again. To be technical, statistically, I won't wind up littered with bullets either. So there's that.
Statistically, there's a chance you could wind up littered with bullets walking down the street, so there's that. Not a threat, just a statement of fact.
You may wonder why I would never want to see either of my guardian figures ever again. I mean, you would if you hadn't been paying attention at all this far.
Believe me, I wish I could slog through this without paying attention.
Regardless, some things have happened in my past that I haven't mentioned yet.
Yeah, you're a very mysterious figure, aren't you?
You know, additional tragic stuff I warned you about before.
Oh, yeah.
Like when his mom died, and that's how he got his martial arts superpower. After getting expelled from ski, I found myself trying to get my mind off what a massive failure I had become. Every day Ashley was at ski, I would sit alone in the darkness of the basement, playing video games and watching reruns of light-hearted TV shows.
You're the type to watch Friends, aren't you? I do love how this is a common theme. When the self-loathing starts, so do the video games. Draw some parallels to my life, too.
But you may say, Arthur, I thought you were always motivated. Insert additional idiotic comment. I'm stupid shit, shut up. Well, that's right, you should shut up. Beating my father half to death, followed by getting expelled, drove a semi-truck through my plans. My entire life, all I have left is the military.
Yeah, stupid dad. Why'd you have to go and get beat up by me, huh? Still just no accountability at all. Oh, this is hilarious.
As for the madness that went down recently, the other night I was called down to consume a meal that was prepared by Frogface, and I just happened to not be hungry. The dish, of course, was vegetarian.
Oh, and it was cursed? That's spooky, dude.
It wasn't even the bearable kind of vegetarian. Rather, the type of vegetarian food you eat that makes people wonder if there's something wrong with you.
And just as I'm about to ask to elaborate, he says,
Let's elaborate on that.
Thank God.
There are some vegetarian foods that I find somewhat decent tasting. They're called vegetables.
Oh my God. Even when he's writing as not a vegetarian in his book, he's still got to get his little vegetarian plug in there.
Then there are these fake cheeses vegans invent that taste essentially like your mother crapped into a jar of flour, sprayed it with a hose, put it in the oven, ran it over with her car, put it back in the oven, blended it up, put it under the sun to dry, and then slapped it on a veggie burger.
I think he's trying to be funny right there. I think this was written with the intent of humor. My God, was the entire thing? I have no idea. I hope so.
Do you understand where I'm coming from? I don't want to eat their fake cheese just because they want to try something different than cow pus dairy.
Come on, cow pus is so delicious though.
Of course, someone with a spine would object, so I did. What happened as a result? Insanity.
So was it that you happened to not be hungry, or did the food repulse you in some way? Because we've stated both things now, and I just need a little clarification as to what is what.
I sat at the table, took one look at the meal, and asked, "Can I be excused? I'm not hungry." You know, because my father's a control freak whose kids have to ask him permission to leave a table once they sat down. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I bet you he doesn't let you use your phone either. Makes you interact with other members of your family. What a monster!
My father didn't like the idea of me leaving the table without eating the meal his abomination for a companion had prepared, so he commanded me to stay. I smiled as politely as I could and said, "No, I was asking as a courtesy," and proceeded to attempt leaving the room.
Oh boy, you want some more of this smoke?
It was at that point my father stood up just enough to pretend he was in control, but just out of my pathway to avoid the possibility of me deciding to beat the hell out of him again.
That's right. There's never been a situation that I've not been in control of.
As I began to leave, he screamed out.
Screamed? Are you sure you don't mean scrumped? Oh, the scream I scrumped. But yeah, he said, "Call the cops," to his girlfriend.
She immediately proceeded to the phone in the kitchen and began dialing. I reacted in shock. "Are you serious?" With a nervous expression, my father looked back at me in silence. I could see the fear in his eyes. His hands weren't shaking. He wasn't whimpering, but he was clearly terrified of round 2 with his meat-eating atheist son.
I don't believe in this mythical sky daddy of yours.
You gonna call the cops on your son for not wanting to eat a meal? I asked, scoffing at their awful parenting.
I mean, the parenting has not been ideal, but neither has the son. It seems like he learned some things in juvenile hall. Maybe send him back there.
I complied with their demand that I stay in the dining room for a moment. I was eager to watch the cops rip them apart for wasting their time on something so trivial. After a few minutes, the doorbell rang.
The doorbell ring. And oh, the scream I scrumped.
Me being ignorant of how the world really works, I assumed the cops would be completely on my side.
You mean you're not a law professor? Huh. I would have thought differently when all of those nuances were explained to me during the bully fight. Remember that? God, how I wish I could forget.
My father explained to them that I refused to eat the meal they prepared, which is why they called the cops. The police officer my father spoke to looked at me and asked,
"What's your problem?"
I couldn't believe it. It was such a painfully familiar question.
And yet, you still don't seem to have an answer.
I tried to encourage the outcome I initially expected by saying to the officer, "It seems like they're wasting your time by calling you about a kid not wanting to eat dinner." The officer responded,
You got a bad attitude, kid. We're here to straighten you out if we need to. Do we need to take you in?
The officer glared at me intensely, as if he was about to whip out his baton and pummel me.
God, I wish he would.
I felt like I was living in some crazy alternate reality where nothing makes sense and everyone around me plays my completely different rules that have no consistent logic or justification.
Yes, my completely different rules. And then you describe the complete lack of logic and justification. It's the Freudian slip of the century, ladies and gentlemen.
I felt frozen in my silence. I didn't want to believe a cop would really just threaten to arrest a kid for not eating his goddamn dinner.
I mean, yeah, they can threaten to your heart's content. Whether they actually take you in, that's another thing. Surely they'll be looking to write you up in the future, though, if you rock the boat too much.
That's it, though. That's reality, and I had to accept it. I repeated what the officer said again and again in my fragile little mind. My conclusion? Yeah, that cop really just asked me what I thought he asked me. He was really going to arrest me over not eating a meal just because my biological donor ordered me to.
Yeah, sucks to suck. Just eat the friggin' cheese.
I stood there silently looking at the ground. The officer warned me that if there were any further issues, they'd take me in right away.
Why even threaten it? If you're able to do it, then do it right now.
I never felt like a piece of property more than I had in that moment. I wasn't their child. I was a dog to them. And if I didn't obey, it was the kennels for me.
That's a terrible analogy. If my dog doesn't eat, I don't care. Eventually you'll eat it if you're hungry. Kids, though, you gotta make sure they eat. You go to jail if they don't eat. Anyway,
once the officers left, I wasn't even told to eat the food. Once they closed the door, I literally walked up the stairs and went to bed and nothing. After all that, they didn't even bother trying to remind me to sit at the table and eat the meal. They called the cops, all so they could wind up complying with my wishes.
You really think you've won, don't you? The real world's gonna be a tough wake-up call for this kid. But something tells me he'll persevere, like that amazing protagonist that we all know and hate.
I don't think it was because they were suddenly out of nowhere being respectful of what I wanted, as if I was an equal human being. Really? They were probably just sick of my face.
Yes, you're a nuisance. You're his child, but also he could probably admit that you are a nuisance. It didn't have to be this way, but you chose to be this way. And I find it interesting that you continue to make that choice, even though I've expressed my discontent about it. In fact, the discontent makes you seem to double down. So what you gotta do is lean in and become goth alongside him.
Be like, you're right, son. Nobody understands me either. Let's both sit here and believe in nothing together, because there's no God.
See, by doing that, it becomes uncool, and he doesn't want to do that anymore. Either that, or you legitimately become best friends and start connecting. I don't know. Maybe a bit of an idealized outcome. Anyways, let's wrap up this turd.
My father was already terrified of me. Sitting across from me at this point would just ruin his appetite.
A-P-A-T-I-T-E. Appetite. Terrible.
There was no future for me in that household. I'd have to leave, and the military was my way out. I would do most anything to make this happen. It will happen.
Yeah, you're right, it will. They take basically anyone. You know how terrible you gotta be to not make it through basic training? If I can do it, you can do it, trust me, okay? I do have to wonder if old Arthur will get out there in the real world and discover some things and become like a full, well-developed grown-up, but I don't think it's going to happen. Surely he will encounter some troubles, and he will do everything in his power to not shine a light on himself. Super weird, super fascinating. I hope you guys liked it enough to leave a super thanks. One of your dollars equals 20 of mine, so why not throw a couple bucks my way? I really appreciate it. Especially if you'd like to see more content like this. We do have that Elliot Manifesto. I'm linking it on the ed card. Because really it is so closely tied to the series. I'll probably just keep it that way the whole way through the series, matter of fact. But yeah, click on through, do enjoy. Thank you so much, friends, for joining me. Always remember that you are loved, you are worthy. You definitely deserve it, and I shall see you in the next one. So until then, bye-bye. Go ahead and cut them open. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.
Promise swears equal.